Welcome back, everyone, to the Bears Football Plays YouTube channel. Today is Wednesday, January 1st. Happy New Year. It is the 1st of January. And if you're watching this video, congratulations, I guess. You made it another year. I think that's an accomplishment all on its own. But yeah, it is January 1st. I am going to be breaking down the college football bowl games. Only going to be breaking down two of the three. Going to do Notre Dame against Georgia on the members side. But before we get into those breakdowns, let's talk about the games we had on for college football on Tuesday. Alabama minus 13.5, closed at minus 16.5. There was no weather. There was no weather indicated in this game, but that's just the Tampa Bay weather. In Florida, had a hurricane, probably 3 or 4 in the first quarter. Absolute monsoon in that game. Alabama, you would think that they'd never seen rain before. They turned it over 3 consecutive times inside their own 20, put them behind the 8 ball for the entire first quarter, basically the entire first half. Came back, made it a game. Michigan, they stood tall, though. They made the right plays late, and they were able to win that game against Alabama. Alabama continues to choke against Michigan. So shout out Michigan for another big win against the big team, taking that game outright. Penn State currently playing right now 0-0. Boise State just shanked a field goal on their first drive, so not looking great for that Boise State team, although they did move the ball down Penn State's throat just a little bit, most of it through the air. Genty was bottled up 3 times by this Penn State front, so maybe that's something to look at for the rest of the game. I think Penn State might go down their throat and score here, but we will see. Player props, Sawyer Robertson took him 3 quarters, but he did finally get it done. Over 1.5 passing touchdowns, and then Nicholas Singleton going right now. It is, like I said, the first drive for Penn State, so hopefully he gets his carries. Looking for 12 to 15 carries in this game. 85, 90 yards would be great. But right now, 1-1, sitting with a loss without Alabama, and then the winner was Sawyer Robertson. But let's go to the plays for tomorrow. We're going to be looking at the 2 college football games, or college football playoff games. Texas going up against Arizona State, going to be the first game. Arizona State out of the Big 12. Texas obviously out of the SEC. Texas, obviously, they're the better overall team. I think they've got the better players. Coaching, I think it's neck and neck. Both these head coaches having a great year coaching their team. Arizona State kind of came out of nowhere, winning 5 or 6 in a row in the Big 12. They dominate all their opponents in the Big 12. They got a huge win in their conference game as well against Iowa State, dominating them from the jump. I think they will be competitive in this game, but it's kind of like the Boise State thing. Again, that game has not finished. I could be dead wrong about Boise State. I just think Texas is the far superior team. I'm going to take them to cover the spread here. Nobody's been a bigger fan of Arizona State than I have this season. I have talked about them multiple times. I've talked about Cam Scatterbo multiple times this year. Going to talk about him again as one of my player props. I just don't know if they have the firepower to keep up with this Texas team. Texas defensively this year, they've been outstanding. One of the better defensive fronts in all of college football this year. Arizona State's defensively, they've been just okay. They are top 50 in defense this season, top 50 in offense this season. But the defense of Texas is going to be a real problem. 13.3 points allowed per game. They only give up 156 passing yards per game, and they are the second best defense through the year. That means they've got to get basically all their yardage for Arizona State on the ground. They've been doing a good job of that this season, but Texas on the season as well, they're top 10 in rushing defense, giving up just over 100 yards per game. Not saying that Cam won't have over 100-plus yards. I think he will, but I just think this Texas team, it's just a different monster. They haven't been playing great. I will give that's the one thing I'm just not too sure about this Texas team. They haven't been playing great, but if they play their A game and Arizona State plays their A game, Texas wins by 20. So I'm going to take Texas in this game, minus 12.5 as the first play. Not being Scrooge. Again, not being Scrooge here. I love Boise State. I love Arizona State. It's just the talent gap is pretty big between these two programs. So give me Texas as the play. Penn State inside the 10. Inside the 10 now for Penn State. They're just driving it down their throat. Long game. We'll see how that one finishes. This is the game of the day. I'm going to do it here instead of the member side. These teams have played before. They played, week? It was pretty early, wasn't it? Oregon was 1. Ohio State was 6. I think that was Ohio State's first. Yeah, that was Ohio State. Definitely Ohio State's first losses. They have 2 on the season, Oregon and Michigan. Early game was at Oregon, keep in mind, and Ohio State lost by 1 because Will Howard slid without getting the first down, and the clock ticked down, and it was over. If he would have got the first down or if they would have just thrown an incomplete pass, they might have had a shot at a field goal. Not going to blame Will Howard. They played pretty well, and I was looking at the numbers for this game. Ohio State played well. Oregon played well as also. So both these teams kind of played an A game, and Oregon was able to win that game by 1 point. The only difference I saw, Ohio State had 8 penalties. Oregon had 2. Ohio State had the only turnover. So neutral site game now. Oregon's not at home. I think the team playing the better football right now is Ohio State. That loss against Michigan woke them up, and it woke them up at the perfect time. In the meetings, they kept talking about after that Michigan game, they had 4 games left. Prove it on the field. We have 4 games left. They were talking about the college football playoffs. Got to beat Tennessee. They stomped on Tennessee. Got to beat Oregon. Probably going to have to beat, is it Notre Dame or Georgia, whichever one of those teams win that game. So they're talking about getting to the championship game. I'm going to take Ohio State in this one, minus 2.5. Will Howard has been a problem a little bit this season. He's not the best option of the quarterback. I think Ohio State could have got a better quarterback, but he played insanely well against that Tennessee squad last week. Ohio State on the season, they are the number 1 defense by a wide margin. Didn't really matter against Oregon. Oregon threw the ball for a ton of yards. I think they had nearly 500 plus yards. But again, Oregon played their A game at home, and they only won the game by 1 point. I think Ohio State sticks in here in this game. I think it's a shootout. I think they win this game. I'm going to take them minus 2.5 as the play. Let's go to the player props. First player prop of the day. We're going to be looking at Cam Scatterbo to go over his total yards going up against Texas. I've already talked about Texas. I've already talked about Arizona State. I do think Arizona State's going to have to do the majority of the damage on the ground. And Texas this season, they've been a very good defense. Top 5 in a lot of major categories. Rushing defense this season, they are top 10. Passing, they are top 2. And Cam Scatterbo on the ground has been an absolute beast. So I do think he's still going to get the workload no matter what the score is. Cam Scatterbo on the season, he's had 20-plus carries in 4 of the last 5 games. He's had 263 carries in total. He is closing in on 1,600 rushing yards, and he has 20 touchdowns. He has been an absolute monster over the last 3 weeks as well in Big 12 play. 147 yards against BYU, 177 against Arizona, 170 against Iowa State. 3 touchdowns, 2 touchdowns. He's also been breaking off some huge chunk plays. He's just Maurice Jones-Drew mixed in with Derrick Henry. He's sitting at 5'11", 230 pounds. He is a bowling ball out there. He has shown some speed on these breakaway runs as well. I love everything about Cam Scatterbo. He got some Heisman attention for a big reason. He's one of the better running backs in the country this season. I'm going to take him over 99.5 rushing as one of my player props. And for the second player prop of the day, give me Jeremiah Smith of Ohio State going up against Oregon. First matchup going up against Oregon. Targeted a lot. Had 100 yards in that game. Was pretty good against Oregon. I don't think he had a touchdown. He might have had a touchdown in the game, but he is coming off a really good game going up against Tennessee. Was targeted a ton. Had 6 catches, 103 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had yardage. His over total yardage player prop in the first half going up against Tennessee. 2 touchdowns in a big game. That Ohio State offense, especially in the first half, they did slow down a little bit in the second half, but that game was wrapped up. That first half Ohio State offense, if they play like that, nobody beats them. Will Howard was throwing absolute dimes. I haven't seen that all season long. If Will Howard continues to throw the ball like that, Ohio State can win this game by 14 points. I'm going to go with Jeremiah Smith, though, in this game. Had a big game against Oregon last time. I don't think either of these teams will be able to play defense. 2 really good defensive teams, don't get me wrong, but the offense is just so much better. We saw it in the first matchup. Going to see it in the second matchup. I'm going to take over 70.5 receiving yards as the play. Let's go to the recap graphic. We will be taking Texas minus 12.5, Ohio State minus 2.5, Cam Scatterbo over 99.5 rushing, and then Jeremiah Smith over 70.5 receiving yards as the play. Guys, it's going to do it for the NCAA football picks and props for Wednesday, January 1st slate of games. You guys enjoy the content. Please share, drop a like on this video, and subscribe channel below. See you guys next video, and thanks for watching.